You have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future. You have to trust in something. Your gut, destiny, life, karma, whatever.
Stay hungry.
Hungry. Foolish. Stay hungry, stay foolish.
This is the eCommerce All-Stars podcast, brought to you with heart by Nadimo.com.
Hi everyone, thanks for joining today's show with your host Brandon Moscow, of course. And today I'm excited. We have Tommaso. I'm not going to try your last name there, Tom, just because, but we have Tommaso. He's a co-founder of EasyShip, and I'm excited to talk to you guys today about how we can cut some of your shipping expenses with Tom. So thanks for being on the show today, bud.
Hi, Brandon. Thanks a lot. It's great to be here.
Yeah, I think we'll have a good little discussion here about how people can cut some of their shipping expenses today. But I was hoping before we get into that too much that you can kind of just give me a little bit more, give everyone who's listening today a little bit more of a background on yourself and what got you started in the industry and that sort of thing.
Yeah, sure. So before we started EasyShip, I actually started my career in investment banking in London, doing derivatives, so something very different from logistics. This was 7-8 years ago. Then I left early as I wasn't feeling really motivated. I was looking for something more entrepreneurial. It was a lot of good money for a fresh grad, but I wanted some more action, and plus I was very interested in what was going on in Asia and especially in e-commerce there. So I joined Lazada, that is the main e-commerce platform in Southeast Asia. Recently, it's been acquired by Alibaba for around $7 to $9 billion. So I joined them working in Malaysia and Singapore, and my job was to acquire e-commerce merchants to get them to sell on our platform. So after 1 year, I got promoted to director of regional marketplace and relocated to Hong Kong to also help acquire Chinese merchants to help them sell their products internationally on our platform. So imagine that within the first year, we started from scratch. We built a team of around 50 people, generating around 50 million revenues a month. So very exciting, really fast. But, in order to keep growing, we had to take care of logistics as well. So we have to help our merchant to ship in a better way. And so we started building solution to help this massive merchant ship and deliver goods worldwide in a very reliable way. So once that was done, we figured that these solutions were only available to big companies, while if you were a medium or size merchant, you were completely excluded from using these tools, since you didn't have the scale, and therefore you were pretty much excluded from selling worldwide. So we wanted to change that, and so together with my two co-founders, Agustin and Paul, we believe that everyone, regardless of their size, should be able to sell and ship worldwide. So we quit our job to create EasyShip. That is a shipping platform that allows anybody to ship worldwide, both domestically and internationally. So after 4 years, we have offices in New York, Singapore, Hong Kong, Europe, and Australia. And we have more than 15,000 companies using us every day to ship anything, anywhere.
Very cool. Well, congratulations on the exponential growth there. I think one of the things that you mentioned there is very important to me, and that's having solutions that are available to all size companies, because especially in today's day and age, the small company has a lot more access to small and medium-sized businesses have a lot more access to these types of resources, especially with the onslaught of SaaS over the last several years and that type of thing. And I think it's just the fact that companies are able to compete against the big players just it evens the playing field a lot. And so when there's solutions out there that are focused on giving everybody equal opportunity, so to speak, it's always exciting to me, and I always like to hear more about it. One of the things that you and I kind of bounced back and forth via email was how to cut your shipping expenses. But I'd also like to, you talked about shipping worldwide and that sort of thing. So I'd love it if you could kind of talk about a little bit more about how everybody out there can some steps they could take or what have you about in order to cut their shipping expenses.
Sure. So first, let's maybe define the concept of shipping expenses, because I think there are different variables and fees in that. Everybody always thinks about shipping costs, maybe fuel surcharge, but then I think there are many other extra fees that are, I think that they are the most important one, because they're the one that can really adds up and destroy your profitability. So beside the pure shipping cost, that is the one that the courier gives you when they give you rate cards, there are other important fees. For example, the residential address charges. Then if you ship internationally, there are taxes and duties when the buyer import products coming from overseas. Then if you ship mostly overseas in very remote areas, some couriers may also charge you some remote area charges. This is because these addresses are located in obviously very remote area, so they have to rely on other last mile providers, and they will charge you for that. Then when you also ship internationally and there are taxes, usually there are some other fees to take care of these taxes. So if you decide to prepay taxes, courier will charge you a DDP handling fees. DDP stands for duty deliver prepaid. So in other words, they basically charge you a fee for the work they do in handling your taxes. On the other side, if you prefer to have your buyer paying for taxes when they receive the goods, they will be charged some DDU, so duty deliver unpaid brokerage fees. So it's very technical. I hope I'm not getting too boring. But since you asked me about
I think
how to cut costs,
I think it's actually very important what you're saying, because there's quite a variety of listeners out there listening to the show, and I think it's important to educate at the same time, and I think it's actually very important and very interesting what you're saying. So yes, please continue.
Okay, great. So just to also give you some numbers to give some visibility about how important are these fees, right? I mean, I just want to make people understand that we're not talking about cents, we're talking about like tens of dollars. So let's start from the first point, the shipping cost. Of course, this ranges, significantly. It can range from $2 to $100, depending on how heavy is the item, where you're shipping it. But let's take an average shipping cost of, let's say, $12, or $10 for easy of computation. If you look at the residential address charges, we're talking about an additional $2 to $3. Is another like 20-30%. Tax and duty is computed based on the value of the item and the category of the item that you ship. But on average, like if you ship, for example, to Europe, if you ship a $100 item, you're looking to pay another $20 tax and duty. For the remote areas of charges, depending where you ship it, but also considering, let's say, shipping a $100 item that costs around like $10 shipping, remote area, it can cost an additional $4 to $5. DDP handling fee, so when there are taxes and you're asking the courier to prepay these taxes, DDP handling fee can be an additional $10, so it can be as much money as the shipping cost. So you can run the math. Like in the worst case scenario, you think you're gonna pay $10 of shipping, but when the courier come back to you with the bill, maybe you end up paying $30 or $35. So if you don't know how to map these fees at the beginning, you can like pay 2 or 3 times more what you have in mind. Now, if you go, here at EasyShip, we kind of like develop some content about what are like our suggestions about we give to our users to help them save up to 40% on shipping. I think the first rule is about having alternatives, especially when it comes to couriers. You know, everybody have in mind those 2 or 3 names of shipping companies, the most famous one. But the reality is that there are more than 400 different shipping companies in the world, more than that. So if you work with more shipping companies, you can be sure to find the best deal every time for every kind of product you ship for every destination. In other words, it's like if you want to buy a flight and you say, no, I'm only gonna fly with Virgin, right? I mean, you're limiting a lot your option, and this will cause you to pay a higher cost. So my first advice is always like try to work with as many shipping companies as possible. On the other end, we know that we're having multiple couriers active. It can also be quite time consuming. So, you know, you need to find your own balance. Of course, the more you have, the cheaper, the more money you can save, but at the same time, more complexity kicks in into your day-to-day operations. Second suggestion would be to consider the volumetric dimensional weight. So, you know, we see a lot of companies, a lot of our clients, when they come to us, they don't track the dimension of their parcels. They only look at weight. So unfortunately, like many shipping option, charges not only based on weight, but also based on dimension. So if you don't consider these parameters, again, you're underestimating the cost of your shipping. So if you want to be 100% precise, you need to also consider dimension. The third suggestion is, if you are a brand, be smart about the dimension of your packaging. So, you know, let's say when you compute the dimensional weight of your parcels, sometimes we find companies that when you compute the dimension, they will end up to be, let's say, 1.05 pound volumetric. They could maybe like just get the package like a couple of inches less or 1 inch less and already be below the 1 pound. And just because of this little trick, you could save a lot of money, right? So there are companies that are very smart about it, and they can save a couple of bucks for every shipment. Then the fourth suggestion for companies that ship international would be to take a lot of care about taxes and duties. So when you ship internationally, every country charges different taxes depending on the category of the item and the price. So if you don't know like what is the tax and duty in the country where you're shipping, you can waste a lot of money in taxes. Then the fifth suggestion is about, for me, the return policy. So especially when you need to be very careful what you write in the return policy, because if you are too generous, I understand that this can drive more sales at the beginning, but then if you like accept any returns whatsoever, you're gonna have to pay for both the shipment to go there to the customer and the shipment to come back to you, and you will lose the revenue. So I'm not saying not to offer return policy. I'm saying to offer something that makes sense, not just for your customers, but also for you. So this is especially true if you ship internationally as well. You know, you need to have a special session for return policy when you ship internationally. Otherwise, it can be a bloodbath. It can be extremely expensive.
Yeah, I could imagine, especially on the international shipping, you're going to want to be very careful about that for sure.
Yeah.
So those are some excellent points, and I appreciate that. I think even if somebody were to focus on even just one of those 5 points, they're going to see a cut in their shipping expenses. But I mean, all 5 of those points shouldn't be overly difficult to focus on. And if they could do that, you're gonna see an exponential cut in their shipping expenses, and that just adds to the overall revenue per sale. And I mean, every penny counts. And when you're talking tens of dollars per shipment, I mean, or even more than that in many cases, like you mentioned, you're going to see every cut that you can make in that area is going to make a huge impact. A lot of the time I talk about conversion rate optimization and those types of things, and I mean, whereas if you make like a 0.5% change, like a 0.5% change to your conversion rate, you're going to see a huge revenue increase. And in this side of things, if you just make some simple changes to your shipping rates, you're going to see exponential increase in your revenues as well. And a lot of the time, you know, people focus on the opposite. How do I increase my revenues? But it's very important you can increase your revenues by cutting some of your expenses. In many, many cases, that's the first place you should look. So I appreciate all your thoughts on that today, Tommaso. That's how you say your name, Tommaso?
Yeah, it's correct, Brendan. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Sorry,
thanks. So
buddy.
I totally agree. I mean, not everybody, but like, it's very common to look at a top line, but then actually you can get so much optimization by looking at the bottom line.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate those thoughts, and I'm going to make sure that we focus those thoughts into the show notes as well. But I was hoping that if you had any final words of wisdom for people out there, and then how people can get a hold of you, and also how they can learn a little bit more about EasyShip.
Sure. So I think that, let me think. I think that the first suggestion we give to our clients in general about like shipping and e-commerce is to go global. And this should be since day one. You know, let me give you maybe some data. Imagine that in 2017, out of 100 transactions happen online, only 18 happen in the States. That means that if you're not selling internationally, you're missing out on 80% of the market. However, last year, only 21% of US brands were selling internationally. So on the one hand, there's a huge market. On the other hand, very few companies are doing it. I think that in general is because historically, US it still is a massive market, but now it's getting super competitive. So it's not, so back then, a lot of companies probably were thinking, oh, you know, it's such a big market, I can just like focus my attention here, no need to have the headache about selling internationally, tax and duty, returns, and so on. But now it is increasing in competition. I think it will become more and more important for companies to expand their market. And I think the earlier companies do it, the better it is before other companies take their market share. So at the end of the day, international, going global is it's like complex, but it's not impossible. You just need a lot of discipline. So I think it's something that it should be the first priority in every online business strategy, because as you said before, so many companies spend so much time in trying to increase conversion rate by 0.2%. But here we're talking about increasing your market by 4x. So, you know, it's about seeing the big picture, right? Then the second point second point that we always talk about is about giving your customers the right to choose which delivery option they want. So we're not a big fan of like companies that provide just like a flat shipping option, because I always think that it impaired the customer experience. Buyers should be able to choose if they want to get the cheapest shipping option or the fastest shipping option or something in the middle. Because if you just offer the cheapest, some customers are gonna be really angry and complaining because they're looking to get something faster, because maybe it's a birthday of somebody, they want to get something fast. So if you offer only the fastest one, there are some customers that they don't mind to wait a couple of days more, but they prefer to wait a couple of dollars. So you need to be able to satisfy everybody, right? It's like offering a t-shirt only in one color and one size. You're not gonna do that. So why are you gonna do the same thing with shipping? So there are a lot of tools out there that make you show real-time shipping rates at checkout. We do that as well. So you can find more information also on our website is www.easyship.com, and you can contact us in our office in New York.
Very cool, and that's very well said. I mean, what you were just saying there. Appreciate those thoughts. Thanks for being on the show. It's been very informative, and I think people had a lot to learn from listening today.
Thanks a lot, Brandon. It was great to be here. I hope people enjoyed this presentation. And again, if you had any question, don't hesitate to contact us on EasyShip.com.
You have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future. You have to trust in something. Your gut, destiny, life, karma, whatever.
Stay hungry.
Hungry. Foolish. Stay hungry. Stay foolish.
This is the eCommerce All-Stars podcast, brought to you with heart by Nadimo.com.